So hi, everybody, and welcome once again to My Journey. I'm Alan Masters, and we're a little bit late on our Sunday conversation because of course, storms and COVID and just stuff that happens right now in our world. We do a Sunday conversation most of the time now in person. We have a big circle. We sit around. We try and social distance a little bit and have some good conversations. So this would be my number 2 for Sunday in that case. But this one, yes, of course, I did not do on Sunday because we didn't have anybody to film it. So thanks to Stephanie Carlson, who braves the cold weather with recovering from a bad cold to come in and film this for us. So yeah, it is my journey. And I realize that, being the son of Roy Masters is... it's not an easy life. It's a different life. And for some, they would say, well, you lived a blessed life. For others, they can't imagine living under the rule of Roy Masters. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just the life that I was given, okay? I've said it before. I was born in the classroom, so it's the only life that I know. I said this Sunday something that has been rolling around in my head to the group that was here live. I said, I want to be Roy Masters for you guys. I want to be double down Roy Masters, but I can't even find myself being half Roy Masters. But I'm not supposed to be Roy Masters. My dad did his thing. He brought to us all the books. I mean, how many do we need? There's like 25 of these things, and they're all packed full of great information. So what does that mean? What does that mean for me? I was thinking, well, I have to write a book because you're nothing until you've written a book. But there is that head again telling me I'm nothing until I achieve this or do that or have accomplished this. Or for a lot of people, it's till I get the plaque of graduated from this college or that college, whatever it is. But it's just not true. It's just not true that you're not good enough until you achieve this. That's a goal-oriented life. And you know what? I have certain goals, but they're just kind of loose goals. Maybe I'm on a journey, and along the way, I go, hey, that looks interesting, and I pull off the freeway, or I take another course for another island if I'm on a boat, and I just spend some time learning about life. There is no rules that God has given us that said we have to achieve this, this, and this to be able to be talking to people about life. No. Just talk. Just communicate. And guess what? When you open your mouth and what comes out, that's you. So be careful. If you hear yourself being nasty and mean and using foul language all the time, that's you. And I will tell you that, a lot of my friends they're the kind of people that like to use the F word and swear words all the time. And I always say, don't do that. Don't do that. I just had this conversation with my wife that I said, words are just puffs of air. It's just a puff of air with some noise behind it. And it doesn't mean anything. She says, no, words do mean something. And I said, they do. Yes, they do. And I will have to be responsible for what comes out of my mouth. But when somebody else is mean or cruel to me, I don't have to let it go in me. Even though it tries to, I can just say, hold on. That was mean. That was a mean thing. It was a rude thing. It was an antagonizing thing. It was designed to be reactionary, like an explosion in my mind in order to upset me, right? So we have 2 responsibilities. 1, we have to be careful what comes out of our mouth. 2, we have to be careful what we let in our minds. The words that people say, the movies that we watch, the things we listen to is all being dumped into our minds. And then we become those things. I told a story on the radio show about I watched this Mr. Pimple Popper. If you've not heard of Mr. Pimple Popper, it's ridiculous. It's a television show about squeezing pimples. They have more followers on social media, supposedly, than all of the NFL combined. People are obsessed with this sick thing. But my brother sends me this ridiculous little video of this, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to see that. But he tricked me this one time. He sent me one that I couldn't tell what it was, so I had to watch just for a minute. And it was like, gross. I don't want to see that. And then in the middle of the night, I had a dream about this gigantic pimple. And it was horrible. It was like a horrifying dream. It was like a splinter in my mind. I couldn't get rid of it. And I woke up and I went, isn't that interesting? We are like sponges. We suck it in. Everything, life, movies, radio, things we see with our eyes, smells and tastes. Have you ever got into a new car and you go, oh, there's that new car smell? Immediately your mind recognizes it. And if it's an old classic car, and I can tell the difference between the smell of an old classic car, mohair interior, I remember that. It takes me back because it's connected to lots of thoughts and dreams and memories of a better or a worse time. Trauma, maybe a worse time. I don't know what you call a positive trauma, something that is you get high on, something that's so fantastic, that you have this thing that is a reoccurring thing that can also, you don't hear about that very often because maybe that's not a problem. People are okay with that. But it's also the same kind of a thing where you're really just a puppet. You're reacting to words and smells and tastes and sounds. And think about what music does to you. Music calms the beast. It's very interesting. A song will take you back. My mom's going to be 90, and she will sing these songs, every word for word. Her memory's terrible right now, but she can remember those songs word for word because it is connected to memories of a better time. So what goes in our minds, what we see with our eyes, it's like Rubik's Cube. It goes in there in a little square box into a shelf somewhere. And then when they hear it again, pops back out, and there's a little Rubik's Cube, and you start trying to put it back together. When was that? Where was that? Who was I with? And you're turning the Rubik's Cube around and around and around. And all of a sudden, bingo, there it is. And you remember the time, the place, what happened, positive or negative. It's amazing. So I was thinking about all this, expectations of myself. I was putting heavy expectations on myself, thinking to myself, how can I ever fill this guy's shoes? How can I ever? I'm not supposed to fill his shoes. His shoes fit me perfectly, by the way. Perfectly. So if I'm trying to fill his shoes and I put his shoes on, they fit perfectly, which means nothing because all the wisdom is not contained in his shoes. It's a life experience. It's a lifelong experience, growing up, understanding life, curing stress, the hypnotic states of Americans. It didn't happen to them. Notice both these white hair. I'm getting white hair. It's just life. You got to go through a lot of life. All of a sudden one day you wake up and you have that aha moment. You go, aha. I get it now. I finally understand. I finally see it. Now, was it the Rubik's Cube that you finally turned it just right to get it to go click, and then it was all one color on one side, and you're like, I get it. But that's life. Now, there are people that can pick up a Rubik's Cube and just go boom, and there it is. Well, that's a rare person, and it's probably only on the Rubik's Cube that they can do that, because their life may be a big fat mess. What I realize is that all of us are on these journeys, these individual journeys, to see what we can do with the circumstance God gives us. Each one of us. I don't have your life. You don't have mine. I can't always understand your life. You can't understand mine. That's the way it's supposed to be. But there are certain universal truths. And those are really simple. And when I read through the Bible, like I opened this Bible up the other day and right to the book of Job. I have to squint because my glasses aren't on. But I thought to myself, oy, 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 that means God wants me to read the book of Job again. And I'm like, I know Job's life. That wasn't an easy life. So now I got to read the book of Job. But each one of us, we go through this journey that God has laid out in front of us. God laid it out in front of us. The creator of everything, the heavens and the earth, everything. He created this life for us. He lays out our life in front of us. And if we follow him, then our life will go much, much better than if we follow this guy. If we follow our own pride and our own ego and our own will and our own intellect, which really, what was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? That God says you can do whatever you want in this garden. You can eat from whatever tree except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil, which has always been interesting to me. Because don't we all want to know? Be still and know? Well, I think that's probably the first lesson we have to learn, is that we don't know. We don't know. He knows. And what he's looking for, what God is looking for, is our allegiance, our obedience, our thankfulness and gratitude for our very lives. I was thinking the other night, I thought, man, I'm so fortunate. I'm so blessed in so many ways. I have a wonderful wife. I have wonderful children. I have beautiful grandchildren and a nice life. And then I thought, well, it's because I'm being appreciative. So I'm looking at the lighter side, the better side, I'm being appreciative. So then I started thinking, well, okay, but wait a minute. What about the tough things I've been through? What about the people that screwed me? What about the people that got away with it, screwed me and got away with it? What about the people that I accidentally screwed and got away with? Oh my gosh. And what about, you can go down that dark road, right? So if you live in gratitude and you live in the light of God's truth, then you don't fall into that dark place where you start saying, well, what about? And what about this? And gosh, I wish I was, 6'2" and I'm only 5'11", and now I'm 5 foot fat because I'm so fat because I don't have time to do exercise because I'm so busy running this stupid business and taking care of all these stupid people. And see how negative Nelly. Negative is just, no good comes from it. No good comes from being negative. Lots of good comes from being positive and appreciative. And so I sat there for a moment and I thought about that. I thought, why is it that we choose to go negative? Why do we even make that choice? These are pretty simple things. These are really pretty simple things. Happiness comes from having gratitude and being joyful about life, about the things that we have. I was sad when I had no shoes until I saw a man that had no feet. Negative, on the other hand, is I don't have any shoes. A guy walks by that doesn't have any feet, and you're like, geez, look at that. And you don't even recognize, I have feet. I was just talking to my friend here, and I said, I love my car. I love my car until it breaks down. Then I hate it. Oh, this stupid car. But maybe I didn't do maintenance on it. Maybe I didn't do maintenance. The car's a great car, and it takes me to work and back and forth and to the store and it does all these great things up until when it doesn't. And then I was home and I was eating lunch, and I was by myself in the house, and I was sitting there eating lunch, and I closed my eyes for a second for whatever reason, and I just got a little bit dizzy. And I thought, what was that? A little dizzy. What was that? Where did that come from? And then I became aware of my body. Because see, it's just like my car, I don't think about it till it breaks down, then I hate it. And my body, I don't think about it till it breaks down, then I hate being sick. Don't you hate being sick? You get COVID. I hate COVID. I hate everything about it. I hate what it's done to our country. I hate what it's done to the world. I hate what it's done to the people. I hate how it's putting people against people that love each other, but they're against each other because they don't agree on things. I hate it. But I was conscious of my body for just a minute when I got a little bit dizzy, and I went, my body, it's been so good to me till it's not. So maintenance on the car, maintenance on the body. Now, I kind of got a premonition. The first one was losing my gallbladder, and I didn't quite listen to it. So I kind of went back to eating a little better, feeling okay about myself. I'm eating a little better now. But you know what? I really wasn't eating all the way better. So I got this premonition here recently that, you know what? I don't know what's going on in this world. I don't know what's going to happen with the COVID. Is there going to be other strains of it? They already talk about an Australian strain and a British strain and a Mexico strain, and I don't know, wherever it's going to come from. And I'm thinking, well, you know, so then even if you do take this vaccine, which I personally would not take because it's way too early and it's untested on, you know, anybody. It's just, they just throw it out there and God knows what. But even if you do take it, it may not even work against these new strains. So I'm thinking, well, what can I do to be proactive? What can I do? You know, wear an armored suit and masks all over my head, maybe a one big snorkel thing with big old filters on it and walk around and be miserable. No, because if God wants you to get sick and he needs you to experience that, you're going to flush a toilet in your own house that somebody else was in there and you didn't know the plumber was doing something and he was with Jack that had, you know, COVID, and he came and went to pee and then he flushed the toilet, and then now you're in your own house, you flush the toilet and then you itch your eye and boom, you got it. So you almost can't protect yourself from it. So I thought, all right, well, what can I do? Do a little bit of research, and there's some things you can do, you know, vitamin D3, zinc. So I'm thinking, well, I can take vitamin D3. I can take some zinc, I can take some magnesium citrate, and I can take some calcium. I like look at all my stuff my wife's taking, and I'm like, well, so what's that do for you? Oh, that's good. That's good for your bones. It's good for this, that, and the other. What about magnesium? Well, magnesium's good for this one. All right, well, okay. Take one a day vitamin. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could take. Apple cider vinegar. Sometimes I take it, smells so bad. I take it and then I have to hold my nose and drink it. And then I have coffee sitting there ready and a glass of water so I can do 1, 2, 3. Then I found out you can get it in gummy bears and pills. So I don't want to go crazy with all this stuff, but I thought if I take some more vitamins, make myself healthy, vitamin C, whatever, you got to do your own research. You got your own stuff, right? Digestive enzymes I've been taking, and I'm eating better. I eat my main meal now in the middle of the day. I thought, middle of the day? So I have a long fast. Let me just tell you how my day starts. I get up, I drink 6 or 8 ounces of water first thing. This is what my friend says, good to do. You've been sleeping all night, dehydrating yourself. You lose a couple of pounds every night just in water weight. And so I drink some water. I get up, take a shower, do some push-ups, a couple little exercise things. And then I go in, I make a cup of coffee. I'm on a keto diet, and so I can drink cream, and I have a non-sweetener, a non-sugar sweetener. What's it called? It's monk fruit. And I have a glass of coffee, and then I come to the foundation here, and I do the radio show Monday through Friday. Get done at about 11:30. I'll usually do a few interviews and things for my normal business. I'll do a little bit of business, go home around middle of the day, 12, 1 o'clock. And I eat dinner. So now I've pretty much had a long fast, right? So I eat this one meal, right? I eat a nice big meal, which is consisted of usually chicken or fish and broccoli and just, you know, really good ketogenic meals that I've been eating for this particular diet. And I got to tell you, I haven't had a desire for sweets at all. So I know I'm kind of getting ready for what? Well, if there's a storm, don't you take an umbrella? If you know it's going to rain and you're going to be outside, don't you take an umbrella? Yes, Typically you would. Or you take a hoodie or a rain jacket, something if you know you're going to be out in the rain, or if it's freezing cold, like my sister's in Texas right now, freezing cold. You better have all your jackets and things and make sure you got firewood, because if the power goes out, which it did, you got to make a fire and you better have some wood. You got to be prepared. We got to prepare. But it isn't just having stored food and wood and guns and generators and all that kind of stuff. It's this thing too, the thing we forget about most. So I have this nice meal in the middle of the day. Then I come back to work and I'll do stuff like this right here. And then I'll go home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 sometimes. And maybe I'll have a little bit of yogurt with some blueberries. Boom, I'm done. So now I've lost like 14 pounds. I feel good, but I feel good. I'm more conscious of my body because I'm not, bloated and fat, and I'm not achy and my like I had a little arthritis thing coming on, like my knuckles. And I noticed a lot of these things start going away. I had some spots on my face. They start going away, and I'm thinking, wow, you mean if you take good care of yourself, there's a payoff to it? Yeah. So what goes in my mouth, I'm thoughtful of. What goes in my mind, I'm thoughtful of. I don't want to put junk in there. Junk in, junk out. So what I watch, what goes in my eyes, I'm cautious. I don't want to watch nasty, ugly, horrible things. I don't want drama. My brother David the other day, he said his wife says, let's watch a movie. And he says, you know what? I don't want anything that's going to give me anxiety. I don't want anything that's going to give me emotion stuff, because you can watch thrillers and action sports movies and scary horror movies, and they're all sucking something out of you. And while they're taking from you, they're implanting something else. They're implanting splinters into your brain. And they're just sticking out of there, like all kinds of splinters sticking out of there that you'll remember. You'll have a dream, the Mr. Pimple Popper. You'll have a dream. You'll have a horror dream. You'll have a kind of a reoccurring dream. You don't even know where it came from. You know why? Because you have been polluting your mind, body, and soul thoughtlessly, without thought. Without thought. So, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to be more thoughtful. I'm trying to live a more purposeful life. Am I going to be my dad? No, my dad is my dad. Am I going to bring something to the table that is a side salad to the stuff that my dad brought? Maybe so. Maybe it's just hearing this kind of a message in a different way than my dad delivered it, with his beautiful British accent, which I will never have. I can mimic it, but only for a few words. But I'm not supposed to be my dad. Neither are you. You're not supposed to be Roy Masters too. You're not supposed to remember everything he says and regurgitate everything he says. You're supposed to live it. So that's my point. Live it. Live the life that God puts in our hearts to live. So as I become more authentic to myself and more honest about life and about what I think God wants me to do, he basically is saying, look, your car is filthy inside and out. You haven't changed the oil in forever. Your carburetor is all gummed up. Your tires are bald. Your U-joints are making noise. Your muffler bearings are about to fall out. There's no such thing as a muffler bearing. But you know what I'm saying. It's like if you were a car and you get taken to the manufacturer, God would look at the owner of that car and go, wow, no maintenance, no thoughtfulness. You've been abusing that car. No wonder it's broken down, and no wonder it keeps on breaking down. If God is the manufacturer of us and we go back to him, we better go back properly maintained, clean on the inside and out, and make sure that we go with gratitude, because otherwise, maybe he sends us to the junkyard where they dismantle us a piece at a time. So there, I made it into a car story because I'm a car guy. But I just will say that, boy, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. I'm more clear thinking. I'm less concerned about what you guys think of me. Because there was a time there when I used to read every comment, some of them mean, and I would go, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And these mean things, and of course, I'm allowing them to be splinters of my mind. And then, of course, that's doubt. And then if I doubt the job that God gave me to do, that my Father gave me to do, and my Father in heaven gave me to do, and Jesus is witnessing, watching, and helping me along the path of life, then I'm the one that turned off the computer, turned off the car prematurely. I'm going down the freeway and reach over and turn the ignition off. It's just going to pull over to the side, and there it's going to sit. Computer's not going to work. The machine's going to be broken down. And I don't want to be a broken down machine. I want to do what God sent me here to do, whatever that is. Next generation people like this have it a little tougher, but you know what? To whom much is given, much is expected. So I realize it's all part of that journey. God laid out my life in front of me. And the question is, am I going to outthink God? No. Am I going to try and figure out all the things I'm supposed to do and say, okay, well, let's see. If I just copy my dad, he wrote book, and he did a radio show, and he did this, and he did that. And then maybe when I'm 90, people will go, wow, he was a smart guy, or he was a good man, or whatever. I don't want to be that. I just want to be me. I just want to learn what God needs me to learn. I want to listen to what he puts in my heart, and I want to live it each day. I want to sit down here, have no idea what I'm going to talk about. No idea. Person calls me and says, okay, I'm ready. I come in, I do a couple little things, clean up the desk here, sit down. She turns on the cameras and the lights and so on and so forth, and then says, bye-bye. And then I sit here and go, okay, well, now what? Here I am again by myself. Here I am again with you. We're all on a journey together. And we can either judge each other, or we can look at each other with innocence and realize that we've all had a rough go at it. That's called life. That is the journey. You know, an airplane does not take off with the wind. It takes off against the wind. It rises against the wind. A kite rises against the wind. Against the wind. Let's just say the winds of adversity. The kite rises against it. So if we have adversity in our lives, it's there to rise, to help you rise above it. And if you aren't looking at that adversity as an opportunity to rise above it, then you're just going to be looking at like, it's windy out. The wind's blowing the wrong way. And I hate working in the wind. Yeah. Being negative gives birth to more negativity. Being positive gives birth to more positivity. I had a young man put a fence in over at my house the other day. And I looked at the weather and I thought, it's going to start raining. But he got there early. It was dark when he got there. He got there early. Truck was backing up. Beep, 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 beep. Is going to dump this wood in my yard. And it was like 6:15. I'm thinking, who's at my house at 6:15? I'm thinking, oh, maybe the trash truck. So I got up. I looked out the window and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's that kid going to build my fence. He's a kid. He's like 24 years old. And to me, that's a kid. But I went out and it was dark and I got my flashlight. I go, what are you doing? Are you crazy? It's 6:15. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, I like to get an early start. I hope you don't mind. And I thought, who am I to chew the guy out for getting an early start? Brilliant. I said, no, it's okay. I just didn't know who was in my yard. So he gets to work. I go in, take a shower, do my stuff, come back out about 7:15. And he's digging holes by hand with the pole, post hole digger. And he had one of those things, a motorized, thing with a giant drill bit on it. But he thought, you know what? I don't know what's in the ground here. He had done all the things you have to do to have the locates done for the power and the gas and all that. But he thought, you know what? I'm just going to dig these by hand because the ground is kind of soft and moist because it had been raining. And I thought to myself, there lies the post hole digger, the easier way. But just because it's easier doesn't mean it's safer. So he's digging these things, and I thought, all right, well, I'm going to go inside, and I'll be back in a little bit. I got to make a few phone calls. I came back out another 45 minutes or so, and he says, you know what? He goes, we got a problem. He goes, it's a darn good thing I didn't use that post hole digger the power one, because he goes, I'd probably be dead right now, because the locate, they paint the grass with a stripe of red, from a paint can. And that's where under that ground is the electrical coming into my property, 400 amp service. And so he was over like a foot away from it. And so he could have just gone, no big deal with the power post digger. But he was doing it by hand, and he hit the power line. And it's about this big around. Something either told him, and that's the beauty of this whole thing, when you live intuitively, when your hands are at work, the mind is at ease, something told him, don't use that machine today, right? So that's that when God lays your life out in front of you. If you listen, he'll keep you from harm's way. So he showed me, I looked down on the hole about this deep, and you could see how he had nicked the side of the big plastic cable that comes in. I mean, it's this big around. It's metal, I'm sure, I don't know, aluminum, whatever it's made of, but it's got plastic covering all the way over it to keep it watertight. And he had hit it with his post hole digger. And I went, wow, look how far off this locating service was. He goes, yeah, I know. He goes, they're not very accurate. So he says, now we're going to have to move the fence this way and that way. But I said, aren't you glad you didn't use that today? He says, yeah. He goes, I kind of had a feeling. I love that. So we moved it, over a little bit, and he went ahead about his work. I went to work. I did the radio show, which is we tape it from 9:30 to 11:30. And I went back home for lunch. And it had just started to rain. Just started raining a little bit. And I got there, and he had put all those posts in, and they were all concreted in. And it was starting to rain. And I said, well, I got this pop-up tent thing if you want it. He goes, it's all right. He goes, I got a sweatshirt on. He goes, it won't hurt me. So I said, okay, well, let me just get it in case you need it. So I went and got it, and I put it out there for him just in case. It wasn't all put together, but if he needed it, he could pop it up. And I'm getting somewhere with this. So I come back at about 3:30, and I drive in my driveway, and this is about 60 feet of fence. And it's kind of an L-shaped fence. And he was done. And it was raining. It was raining hard. And he was picking up his things because he was done in the rain. And I pulled up, and I stood underneath the eave of my garage, and I said, you got to be soaked. He says, it won't hurt anything. He goes, that's all right. He goes, I'm done now anyway. He goes, I'll go home, take a nice warm shower. That's the end of it. But I thought to myself, I love that work ethic. I love that attitude of, I'll be okay. It's not going to hurt anything. I call my sister in Texas, and I said, how cold is it? She goes, it's like, 17 degrees below zero. It's freezing cold. I go, you got power? She says, no. She goes, it comes on every now and then it goes back off. She goes, but we're okay. My sister is always positive. She's always positive. That's the way she is. She's always positive until she's negative. And when she's negative, run. That's all I'm telling you. I'll leave it at that. But it's like attitude is altitude. And when you have this positive attitude, this appreciative attitude, it changes everything. Your life unfolds differently. And I said to the guy, you did this all by yourself? I go, do you like working by yourself? He says, he goes, I really do. He says, I'm very particular. And when I hire people, they're always trying to cut corners. And he goes, this is my job. It's my business. It's my name on this business. He said, so I know it's only fence building. He says, but I like to be, looked at like I do a good job. And he goes, and I can't guarantee that if I have somebody working with me. So it's just not worth it. He said, I'll just work a little slower, take me a little longer, and I'll get it done by myself. He says, and I thought, that's a beautiful thing. Here's a young guy. Normally it's ambition, drive. Well, his drive is different. Early bird gets the worm, right? He gets up earlier. He gets there earlier. He's willing to work in the rain. And just do what it takes to get it done, but do it right. And so my friends say that I have an 8-pound eyeball because I notice everything. And it's a bit of a curse because I notice everything. And I started looking at everything. I started looking, and I thought, I'm going to find something. I know I will. There's got to be something. I could not find a single flaw. Not that I was trying, but it's just my nature. I'm looking. Couldn't find anything. Everything I looked at I found joy. I was like, oh my gosh, he did this. Oh my gosh, he did that. And then I said, what kind of nails are you using? He says, well, I screw everything that matters with a screw. It's a 3.5-inch screw, so on and so forth. He goes, then the wood that I do nail, I use stainless steel nails. I go, stainless steel nails? I go, man, those must be expensive. He goes, they're a little bit more. He goes, but you know what? I hate driving by my fence 6 months or a year later and see rusty looking stains going down from the nails. He goes, these don't rust. These won't leave any stains there. They'll last longer. He's thinking ahead. Even after he's done the job and he's long gone and forgotten about, his work still stands strong. But that's why he will not be forgotten about. Because when somebody says, who built your fence? I like your fence. Who built it? Oh, I'll give you the name of this kid. He's really good. He thinks of everything. He's thoughtful. He's quick. He does a great job, and he's an affordable guy. And you know what? He's got 2.5 babies, one on the way, and he needs the work. So yes, I want to give him my highest recommendation. See, when you think that nobody will remember you, you're thinking very short-sighted. You got to really think for the long term. Everything we do in our life has a ripple effect. And you want that ripple to be as far out there and keep rippling and rippling and rippling. Generations, in my father's case, generations of people are affected by the things that he said and put into motion. Because he was thinking, how can I not only make a better fence, but how can I make a better world? If all of us thought, how can we make a better world? Starting with one piece of wood or one person, one screw or one nail, one relationship at a time, the world would be a better place. So as I go through my life and as I'm on my journey and I learn little things like this that are they're kind of common sense. They're kind of common sense, but not so common in this world today. People teach each other how to cut corners. They don't teach each other how to be craftsmen anymore. Craftsmen are almost a thing of the past. And when you find one, you're like, oh my gosh, what a find. When you find somebody that's willing to tell you the truth, clean, without a guilt trip attached, strings attached, you know what I'm saying? You owe me. I saved you. Now it's your turn to pay me back. Don't be that person. Do what's right because it's right without any expectation of return on investment. The investment is that you've been obedient to your Father in heaven, who also, for all of us, gave his only Son. His only Son gave his life so that we could find our way back to that beautiful place sitting by the side of our Father and brother in Jesus. So, I get up here. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Maybe next time it'll be Job. I'll have to read that. But I just feel like, you know what? Life presents you with opportunities every day if you just show up. Show up being conscious. Show up being full of gratitude instead of, disappointment. Because we all have disappointments. That's part of life. Just shrug it off, say, what are you going to do? Nothing I can do about it. Some things are more painful to do than others. You lose a family member or something. You can't just go, what are you going to do? But you know what I'm saying? You have to continue on with your life. The ripple effect is, are you affected by the ripple of the death? Or are you going to let the people that are still living be affected by your ripple of life? If we could all change the world by buying stainless steel nails and thinking that far into the future, what a thoughtful thing that kid did. And that stainless steel nail taught me a really important lesson about life. I would have never known if it was galvanized or stainless steel or just a steel nail. I would have never known. Had I not asked, he had no intention of telling me. He was underway. It wasn't my choice. He gave me a price. I said yes. It was his choice for the longevity of the job that he was doing. It was a thoughtful thing. He put love into what he did. So if every nail that we drive in, if every conversation that we have is like a nail, and it's a stainless steel nail, and it's going to last a long time, and it's going to have a ripple effect on people that you know and love, then you have done something that is a kindness. See, to me, that's a kindness, is to have somebody come back 25, 30, 40 years later and say, you said something one time. There's that stainless steel nail. And it stuck with me all these years. That's Roy Masters. I'm proud of my dad. Okay. I think that's it for me. Try and change the world every day of your life. Make it a better place. Stainless steel nails. See you next week.